Good morning. We'd like to welcome you to the BmoreNews morning show. We have with us today, well, let her introduce herself. What's your name, young lady? Marcia?
We're going to have to get you an intern.
Well, I was trying to do something different. Marcia Jews is with us, WKIM. And young man, your name?
Yes, good morning. I'm John Rydell.
Good deal, good deal. So, Marcia, John, what's in the news today?
Well, you can't, these are tough times for restaurants, aren't they? I mean, you just got a feel for these owners that have been through ups and downs all year. It's a tough business, very competitive business to begin with. And of course, in Baltimore City, we know what would happen there, and some of the restaurant owners are fighting back as you would expect they would be. And of course, this is expanding. I think tomorrow, as of 5 p.m., the restaurants in Anne Arundel County will be shut down, both indoor and outdoor
Marcia
dining.
Jews
So there's a lot of
Marcia Jews here. How you doing?
Understandably so. And the sad thing is that this may continue through the end of the year.
Yes,
think about New Year's dining. You won't be able to go out on New Year's Eve to dinner anywhere. It's just tough times. Where's Donnie? He's around there somewhere, isn't he?
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Oh.
Can they hear me?
Yes.
I'm muted. How do I unmute?
The mute button is down the bottom.
Okay.
Terrence, how have you been?
Fantastic. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Good, good. Terrence, what's the word in the world of restaurants?
We're open. We're open. For to-go only right now, though. And still a challenging battle. All right? Still a very challenging battle right now. You know, with everything going on with the COVID, we've had to make, I refer to it as intelligent decisions for each owner. All right? And deal with what's going on with the COVID.
Okay, well, recently, Terrence, you were standing in support of Mayor Scott's decision to close down restaurants. Did you take any heat over that?
Well, you want to know what, Donnie? You phrased it that I was standing in support. It already had happened. What I was there for was for the most important thing is that restaurants
here in Baltimore. Hey, Terrence, how you doing?
Hey, good morning. How are you? All right. Was that, you know what, we need our support right now. That you know.
Yeah, he's moving things around, so we just gotta keep it moving. Terrence, can you hear me? Yeah, how you feeling about this?
Marcia, something strange is going on with your sound.
Is that me or you, Donnie?
Okay, come on, Terrence, please continue.
All right, you know what I did was this, is that guess what? We really do need support out here. You know, we talked about this months ago. You know, they said it was going to be one of the most challenging times around the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and also the flu season. Okay? Listen, don't visit, don't travel. It was one of the biggest travel days that we had. The hospitals are packed right now. The numbers are up like crazy. And we've determined already that, you know, science has said time and time again, the indoor eating, not great, okay? But also, one of the things that just wasn't about closing down a restaurant, it was about the people. You know, we got to stop this, all right? And so it's all right, just like in any other game, it gets rough, it gets tough. What do? You take it to it, all right? You figure out what's going to be a winning plan, and you implement it. Right now with this COVID, I don't think that anyone can say left or right that they have the 100% cure of what's going on or what's going to happen with our businesses. The one thing that I do bring is that, guess what? We need to redefine a couple of definitions. Everybody's saying that there's so much money out there for small business. The definition of small business with the SBA is if you have 50 and you're $5 million, you're small. You're considered a small business. The business that I'm out there cheering for and saying that we need some real help are micro business. Those small businesses that really drive our community, drive our cities from coast to coast. All right. We haven't seen any funding yet. We've had to fight this thing alone. And guess what? A few weeks or a week or 7 days of operating at 25 or 50%. What does that do for any business formula? It's not a winning formula. We need to get some fundings to these restaurants, some cash. So many people call me and say, Terrence, what can we do? What can we do to help the businesses? Write a check, okay? And every time that I think that with my friends, I have a friend of mine that their restaurant is going to close on the 18th. Now, they've been all over the media, they've been in all kind of programs and stuff, but guess what? No one came to their door with a check. Your mouth is everybody gets quiet.
So do you expect?
And I mean that clothing.
Okay,
go ahead, Donnie.
Okay. So long story short, is the mayor going to give you some money?
We're working on it. I'm asking for it. I asked for it when Jack was mayor. Okay, the mayors. Whether or not understand this, Donnie. Here's the one thing that people keep missing. All right, black business and micro business been doing a covert then forever. Okay, we've never had access to funding. We've never had the support from federal, state, or local government like we should. All right, for the importance that we do for the community of Baltimore City. One of the key things that people keep talking about is somebody need to mute their phone. Mute their screen. One of the things we keep talking about is that keeping these businesses open. The debt to pay it now. All right. I'm gonna take me for example. All right. Before COVID, I had 24 employees. I have 24 employees. Now I've been entrusted to keep 20 employees employed right now. So far, I got $24,000 from PPP. Okay, that's a problem. That's it. All right. When I told them it was a miscalculation, it should have been double that. Guess what they told me? Sorry. All right. I couldn't tell my employees sorry. All right. I couldn't shut my door. See, my restaurant is more than just a place for food. My restaurant is a hub of our community. My restaurant is hope. It's showing that black business and small business is gonna be resilient through all. Being on this corner for over 20 years right now, man, I built 25 to 30 businesses. Okay. And one of the big things that is like the real disconnect right now, and that it's a real easy thing to solve, is that it's always denied because we don't have the business credit line, or we don't have credit cards, or we haven't had the business loans. But guess what? You do business with the bank for 5 to 10 years, and you put all your money in it, and they continue to grow, and they never extend that help. Okay? One of the things is that money has to get to the street. And me being open and trying to do outside dining and opening up at 25 or 50% doesn't do it. It doesn't. Because guess what? BG&E still, they want 100% of their money. Comcast wants 100% of their money. My insurance company wants 100% of their money. So, I mean, these are conversations that we really need to have. All right. Right now, guess what? We're closed. Now what? What's the next step? How do we get funding to the businesses? Okay. Because I heard a few weeks ago or a month ago that there was $250 million that hadn't been distributed yet. Hey, give me a checkbook. I'll go down the phone book and write a check for every business in town right now. Okay, that's going to change the narrative. So for us to keep shooting it downtown and shooting left and right and whatever. We have to have a communication and just a like-minded thought. But guess what? We want a new Baltimore. We want it better. We want it bigger. And one of the key things that drive Baltimore, that the big companies leave Baltimore, everybody's up in arms. But guess what? The small company is what pays the bills. Okay? Because we always give away. We give away for them to come here. All right? The same way we need to give to the small business to stay here.
Okay, Terrence, we're going to have to move on. I don't know if that's your feed or not. I'm going to try. Someone's got a loud connection there. Okay, so John, you've been listening. Any thoughts? What's the word around town? Downtown, Fells Point, Canton. What's the word on restaurants?
Well, think about it. New Year's Eve is such a big deal, and also around Christmas time. And, you know, and I'm sure any restaurant owner will tell you after the first of the year, the business really drops off long before COVID. So I know that the restaurant owners have been mobilizing. I don't know if there's a point person at City Hall with a new administration that is just in touch with these people day to day. I don't know, but you just wonder if at some point the mayor will say, okay, you know, let's reopen for New Year's weekend, or is that just a really bad move that will bring the numbers back up at some point? You think that maybe it should be up to people themselves, but I guess there's so many people that continue to go out. We saw that over you know, Thanksgiving weekend, and now the numbers came up again. So I mean, obviously there's no answer. And then there are more and more places that are shutting down, not just in Baltimore City. I think there's a few prominent places in Annapolis that decided to just shut down for the winter because they don't like the uncertainty of week to week, not knowing, you know, if they'll be open or not. And earlier this year, back in the summer, talking to restaurant owners, let's say in Fells Point or Little Italy, when the restrictions are lifted, you just can't reopen a restaurant in 24, 48 hours. I mean, you've got to order food. You've got to make sure that the servers and the staff that you had and the chefs can come back on short notice. And some might be making more, collecting unemployment than they would working with all the COVID restrictions. So you really can't blame them. So it's just a no-win situation.
Terrence, how many people work at your restaurant?
Donnie, I got 20 people right now. You know what? I'm excited. I'm actually looking to hire more people. Okay? All right? Because guess what? I know we're opening. And you know what, John? You were definitely right. When opening back up a restaurant, it takes a minute. You got to get product. You got to get your people. And this unemployment hasn't been fair to us anyway. I've had some chefs that got unemployment. They ain't coming back. All right? That they're getting that money and everything else right now. And you know what? I got to feel that I'm glad that they're not, because their age or their health doesn't permit for them to. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that because of my structure that I'm able to put some food on the table. And that's the big thing that I wanted to talk about is that, you know, micro businesses have to get ready for this next round. There is going to be some more money on the street.
Let me interject there, Terrence. Thus far, according to the Baltimore Sun, the Baltimore Development Corporation has awarded 2 rounds of grants totaling $5.5 million, and the city, through BDC, has awarded 235 grants totaling $2.9 million to restaurants, carry-out establishments, bars, taverns, and the city will continue to push out federal and state leadership to provide even more support to our restaurants. Did you get any of that money, Terrence?
I got a little bit, Donnie. You know what I mean? I applied for an outdoor grant back at the beginning of COVID. It came last week, $15,000. Okay, but guess what? Some of those businesses that applied all the way back at the beginning of COVID closed. All right, you know, the system is not respective of what's going on right now. Okay, a lot of businesses are drowning. They're 15 feet from shore. And a 10-foot rope is not going to make it. Okay. But also you got to understand that so many of the people in the Black community didn't get it. So many of your small, well, you know what? Not even Black, because I'm getting calls from everybody. All right. White, Black, purple, plaid. They didn't get it because the business structure of distributing the money is the same thing again. If the business doesn't have a credit line or a bank credit card, they weren't getting money. And then also, guess what? The grants were structured that they would come out at Monday at 9 o'clock. It's such a need, okay? And it's such a little bit of money that they're sprinkling it with. You know what I mean? Within 5-6 hours, one day, it's gone. And most of these grants, they don't release to you of what's the form, what's the information that you need, so that you can properly prepare yourself. You know what I mean?
Let me step in here. China, your thoughts? I know you deal with restaurants in your catchment area as well.
I do. And I have to say that my heart is truly going out to the small business owners. I have restaurants in my $27 million project in East Baltimore where we're working very closely with grannies to bring them into our project. And I've sat down in preparation for that. I've sat down and talked to a lot of restaurants to understand where is it that they make money and where is it that they lose money so that I can be sensitive. I don't ever want to set anybody up for failure. And so my heart really goes out to all of the restaurants because I know that, yes, we want to be safe and we want to be healthy. And I just hope that we're including more of their voices. So I'm just really listening to Terrence and learning from him. I think that there are a lot of opportunities here. Terrence, what I hear you saying is that, we need more outreach, we need more assistance to all of our small businesses because our small businesses are so engrossed in the day-to-day of running their business. When we add a ton of paperwork on top of it, that's completely outside of the lane. Like, where is that time coming from to get that done on time and correctly, and for them to even access that? I also hear maybe that, we need to be more surgical in our approach. So, for example, I saw on the Sun, Donnie, as you're saying, that the Baltimore Sun says that, maybe the concern was the kind of the outdoor tents. Well, maybe the idea was less kind of canceling outdoors and more saying, well, if you have a tent, it can't have a ceiling. And if it has a ceiling, then it can't have walls. Just making sure that that's open and just being more surgical. I saw in some other communities that are having to really shut down that, maybe some things that could help. And I don't know, Terrence, this is, what do you think? For us, it was an indefinite closure. Would it have been helpful to say, hey, we're going to do this for 4 weeks and then reassess? I just know that opening and closing is extremely expensive. And
China, let me step in here for a second. Terrence, with time escaping us, Terrence, we're also covering today violence here in Baltimore. Might you have any thoughts on the violence before we close out this segment?
Yo, they're hand to hand, right? They're hand to hand. The reason that you have such a challenge within Baltimore City is because you don't have great opportunity for everybody. It is so crazily unbalanced that you can walk in a beautiful neighborhood 1 minute and then you go somewhere and you got a bunch of boarded up condominiums. All right. Until we change this narrative of continue to be a town of sharecroppers. Okay. If we don't convert this town to where people own the bricks, okay, that they own their house, that they own their building. At that point, it's a different attitude. You know what I mean? You don't walk by the trash. You don't allow anybody to manhandle your neighborhood or your community or your youth or your women or our elderly. All right. This is where the pivot point is right now. We have the opportunity to be awesome. When this first happened, I thought this was going to be the coming of the 40 acres and a mule for my community. And it turned out not to be. But yet it's still not too late.
Terrence, before we go, let me give you a chance to plug your business, and also special thank you to State Senator Corey McCray for helping to sponsor our Black Wall Street 2020 virtual ball. How can people get in touch with you, Terrence, and make sure you plug Terra Loft Consulting?
Hey, peace, family. How are you? Chef T. Terrence Dixon, owner of the Terra Cafe, located at 101 East 25th Street in the heart of Baltimore, Maryland. We're doing, you can pick up, you can call in your order, curbside, I'll bring it out to you. We do have Uber and Grubhub and all the rest. One of the things I'm going to share with you for all restaurants, whether or not you're here in Mississippi or whatever, take 2 minutes, call your order in, go to your restaurant and pick it up. all of these Goober and Grubhubs, what they're doing is they're getting 20 to 30% of it. And if you know how small the margin is in the restaurant business, basically the only thing you're doing is you're just passing cash, okay? And debt is coming, all right? But also what we're doing is this. The question I ask everybody today, your small business, do you have a covert folder? If you do not know what a covert folder is and you do not have one, reach out to TerraLoftConsulting.com. Sign on, and let me tell you what a covert folder is. It's something that we created at the beginning of the covert to help businesses that when these grants, anything comes out, that you have some of the basic information, you know what I mean? 3 months of bank statements, your licensing, your good standing, all of those things that are somewhat standard, have them already ready. So that way, if you do got to call an audible and you need an extra month of bank statement, it doesn't take you 2 to 3 days or weeks or whatever to get it. And let me share something also.
We don't have that much time. I know you're on a roll.
One thing, Donnie. All right. Support our restaurants. Call them. Buy a gift card. Don't use that gift card. Save it for later. Maybe even just make it a love offering and burn that gift card up. All right. But guess what? The government's not coming fast enough. All right. But community still has to stand. So it's up to us to save these businesses and keep them along. Thank you so much, everybody. Please be safe and wash your hands and wear your mask.
Good deal. Avon Bellamy, you've been very patient there. How have you been, Avon? Long time no see.
I'm fine. It's very hard hearing anybody with all of this that that's going on.
Avon, we can't hear you well.
Did you hear me?
It's a little weak. Maybe that's been your camera making all of that noise in the background.
I don't doubt it. So what was the question again?
Your thoughts on the violence in Baltimore, the restaurants, closings, anything in the news? Yeah, we got a bad connection there. Let's just shift back to China and John. John, any thoughts on Terrence in this scenario?
Well, you got a feel for him, and he's fighting to survive. He will survive, and he's got a lot of good information, and he's just I just hope that there's somebody at City Hall and the new administration that's meeting and talking to restaurant associations, restaurant owners daily about what they can do, because again, I mean, this is December 15th. So not much. I mean, it's really encouraging to see these images on TV with people finally getting vaccinated. But we know this is not going to trickle down to most people in Baltimore for months, probably. They're saying maybe March or April. So, I mean, good for the first responders and the people on the front line, the hospitals. But, the numbers are going to continue to spike. And, again, you feel for the restaurants, especially the smaller non-chain restaurants, the people that are really fighting. So Terrence obviously is very engaged. He's certainly going to survive, but these are probably, December, January, and February are going to be real tough months before they come through it. And I think the Restaurant Association of Maryland said we can count on, 30% or more of restaurants that are open now will probably shut down in the next few months, on top of the ones that have already shut down. You look at even in the wealthier areas, Harbor East, look at the number of big restaurants that have shut down and probably not going to reopen. Was it Fleming's Steakhouse, Roy's, and some of the other ones? So imagine what it's like for somebody, a small restaurant owner in other parts of town.
China, do people have a right to be mad at the mayor? Because, although Terrence supports shutting it down, there were a number of restaurants, as noted in today's daily newspaper, that are against the closing down indoor and outdoor dining.
I personally believe, obviously, we all know that this is one of the hardest times that we have been through in our lifetime, quite frankly. The Great Recession was difficult, but what's so challenging about this is that we've just never been through anything like it before in our lifetime, with the exception of the 1918 flu was the most recent time, but many people weren't, alive then. So I think that people have a right to seek clarity, and to ask whether we're doing all we can, and to ask for more assistance. And I think that we're in trouble when we say, well, the federal government is going to do more. I think that even though it's tight in Baltimore City, I believe that we have to figure out what can we do from our own coffers, from our own real estate portfolio, from whatever assets we have to help people. And I know some people may say, well, it's just restaurants. But in Baltimore City, women, this is devastating for women. Women are overrepresented in the services industries. So for restaurants to close, that means deeper under in unemployment in Baltimore City, for a city that already had 23% of its people below the poverty line, compared to only 13% nationwide. We honestly can't afford more hits. So I think that people have a right to really demand clarity and to ask people to make as considered decisions as possible.
You said that women, what were you saying about women?
Women are very represented in the services industry, and I would go so far as to say overrepresented. Not to say that they shouldn't be.
Because you kind of threw me with that overrepresented part. Because,
yeah, well, it's just that
this is a dialogue. As you were talking about women being overrepresented in West Baltimore, I'm seeing Black men being underrepresented, unemployed. So how do we?
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. The unemployment is hitting Black men. We are talking about crime rates today too. 320 people dead today in Baltimore in 2020 alone. The vast majority of men, and so many of them could not even vote. We're not even old enough to vote, and they're gone.
Let me just add in, with those murders, and I want to share it here. First time, we're understanding here in West Baltimore, there are decapitations.
That's right.
There are hands being cut off of bodies. Violence is at it's at a new level.
The violence is representative of a depravity that I think we had not imagined we would see. And so I completely agree. And when we look at how Baltimore's economy has really been powered by women, that is indicative of an issue with our men in the city. And so I think that we have two issues here. One, so many of our men are not working. They're unemployed. They are in jail. And then so many of our women are working to help push the family over the edge. And then they're now losing their jobs too. So we have a compounded problem here where our families are just literally getting decimated and devastated. It's a real issue.
Avon Bellamy, you know a little bit.
There's no backstop. There's no backstop that's left. That's the issue. There's no backstop that's left unless we go to the 15-year-old at home that's probably already helping to take care of the other kids. There's no backstop.
Mr. Bellamy, how are you doing there? You tuned in with us?
I think so. Can you hear me better now?
It is. Are your hands on the computer?
No, my hands is on the phone.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you do that cinema verte thing. But you know something about violence here in the city of Baltimore. What saith you, O man of God?
Well, about the violence, man, the kind of violence we experience because of economic hardship for the most part. There are not a lot of jobs, and the people that are committing most of the violent acts are young people. They're between the ages of like 13 and 30 now. And when you have that kind of disparity where people are not making money, they don't have the prerequisite skills in many instances to do that, they look to other avenues of income. And a lot of that is involved with being violent in one way or another. and doing things to make money, no matter what they are. I've been in that life, so I understand how that can be. So it's a difficult situation if we do not provide opportunities for the people who are creating most of the problems. We're never going to straighten out the problem. It's really boils down to being that simple.
Okay.
Did I enter the dead zone?
Can't hear you, China.
I have a question because Don, you were saying that right now this violence is looking a lot different and a lot more, even more concerning if that's possible than it has before, because we have decapitation and people's limbs being cut off, bodies being dismembered. And to me, that's more than just I didn't have a job. And so how do we account for that? Is it just that we've been down and out economically for so long that we've come to a very twisted place? And so my question is, how do we go from violence because of poverty to decapitation and dismemberment of bodies and so forth?
Hey, Mr. Bellamy, you want to take that? I want you guys to leave your phones alone. I need you to take your hands off your phone. Leave it alone. We hearing all of the rattling in the background. Okay, come on, Mr. Bellamy.
All right, my hands is off the phone. I didn't hear all of the question because of the stack.
Yeah, I imagine. Johnny, want to try your question again?
Sure. Mr. Bellamy, I struggle because I too understand that poverty leads to violence and crime. But how do we get to the level of violence where bodies are being decapitated and dismembered and clearly someone's being tortured? How do we go from poverty leads to crime to poverty leads to this sort of dismemberment of bodies and so forth?
How did things get so bad, Mr. Bellamy?
Again. I have my hands on it now, brother. And that static is still coming through to the degree that I barely hear the question.
It is. Okay, so we'll try again, Mr.
Flying.
Yeah, we're not here. We're going to have to move on. And we'll have to try them a little later. Okay, Terrence, you've been there. Why is it so violent in Baltimore? Terrence?
Baby. All right. You know what? One of the things is that, you know, it is what it is at this point, is that you have generational of not taking care of communities in the city. And this is what we're dealing with right now. You know, no opportunity, abandoned buildings. And you know what, when you think about Baltimore City, a lot of people ask me when I live here, you live in Baltimore? All right. You know, the drug addiction, the homelessness, the just.
But how did it get to the point that we cutting off heads, brother? Is that MS-13? I mean, I'm hearing that
it's crazy everywhere, Donnie. It's crazy everywhere.
But cutting off heads, I mean, it's one thing to shoot somebody. You got to cut the head off. I mean, you know.
They're cutting the head off our community. Once we stop doing that, guess what? Maybe we'll get some real answers here. And
Terrence, how is it going for you finding people to hire? Because so for example, I know there are a lot of chronically unemployed people. If you're, I want to know, are you able to hire the chronically unemployed? When you do, are they able to keep their jobs? What I've been finding when I hire people who walking off the street, who have checkered history of employment, who are chronically unemployed, I can give them all the chances in the world, but they're not really able to succeed in that role. People need therapy. I find that people literally need therapy so that they can hold on to their jobs.
So let's hear from you, Terrence. What is your experience?
He's 100% right. I work with a lot of workforce development programs to bring me people because I'm always looking to give somebody a first shot. I used to say a second chance, but in reality of society today, a first shot. But what happens is you don't have always the best training, but she's 100% right, is that you have to have a kind understanding. You have to have a patient nature. You know, you can't just train them to do something. You have to erase all of the trauma. And remember, these are people with trauma, okay? They've been pushed through school. They've been living in less than, in poverty communities, okay? They've seen other people just shine and they don't, okay? And something happens traumatic that says, you know what, I'm going to get off the street. I'm going to go in this program. They try this program. They run them through for 6 months, 9 months. But guess what? They never really sit down and talk to them. They never see. You know, they see them at the program and they see them at the job. They don't know the type of home they go to. They don't know the community. They don't know the family structure that they go to. This is all part of it. You know what I mean? Just like in the Bamboo program that we're doing with the businesses, I really feel as though that most of the workforce development programs should be for 2 years. It shouldn't just be training. You should actually provide housing for them. You should provide, make sure they get full medical so that they can sit down and talk to somebody. And I think that if you invest that into someone for 2 years, okay, the average incarceration or drugs or whatever, they're running from 70 to 90,000. But if you invest 40,000 into someone for 2 years, guess what? I'm sure that those percentages of them coming back and doing what they're doing right now won't happen.
Okay, let me just shift the ball and get some other people involved. John Rydell, in your time as a reporter, have you found anybody that recognizes the need for therapy? Anyone that recognizes the trauma that's happened to both blacks and whites in the city of Baltimore? I mean, look at Freddie Gray. I would have figured after Freddie Gray, there would have been a line of Winnebagos on North Avenue with therapists. So my question is, in your experience as a journalist, does anyone understand the mental health component to healing Baltimore?
No, not really, to be blunt. I think it's been overlooked because it requires long-term investment and resources, and the success rate is not always good, but it's just so easy to, count the numbers year after year. And as you know, it took years to get to where we are today. And of course, the actual number of homicides, what was it, 1993, was even higher than it was today. But today, since 1993, the city's population has shrunk by 100,000 or something like that. So it's even worse today. Excuse me. But no, I think a lot of people haven't looked at the big picture. They're looking at criminal justice and what can be done. And of course, the juvenile crime is really out of control, the carjackings and whatnot. And a lot of the juveniles are being picked up and then returned to the custody of their parents in less than 24 hours.
But I would figure, John, the mental health component would be really important, especially when you consider the two major medical institutions here in the city of Baltimore that get kudos all the time, University of Maryland and Johns Hopkins. I would figure, particularly Hopkins, located in the heart of East Baltimore, would have a major mental health outreach effort. They get all of the money in the world for research. And then we find out some of their research is tainted. I mean, like with Kennedy Krieger, we find out that they were essentially conducting Tuskegee experiments. They know that children are in lead-infected houses, but no effort was made to move these young people. And I'm not blaming them, but they are often heralded as the greatest medical institution in the world.
Yeah, and I don't have all the answers. I don't know if the new administration or with Jack Young, if they had reached out as much as they could have to the nonprofits, corporations, and institutions like Hopkins to just say, we've got a crisis and it's only going to get worse, and we've got to intercede at a very young level as opposed to having these juveniles. About 5 years ago, I had a cell phone stolen off of my belt right outside the state office complex. 15-year-old kid. And it turned out that he had an ankle bracelet on and was on home detention because he was arrested during the riots, something minor, probably shoplifting or whatever. But you wonder about that guy who's now certainly over 18. Did he get the help that he really needed in terms of mental health and things like that to turn his life around? So, I mean, it's long term, but that's what everybody has to explore.
China, I can see your brain working there. Your thoughts.
No, my thought is just that, I mean, to John's point, and I guess I want to know, Terrence, how you described all of the support that people need when they come to you and you're giving them a first chance. I agree, first chance, not a second chance usually. How on earth do you even have time for all of that as a small business person? How do you have time to work with people in that detailed way? I find that so many small businesses do that, so they don't hire people who have barriers to employment.
I'm held accountable for my community.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's bigger than me. You know what I mean? The people over profit. You know, when I tell you what, I have, Rockefeller Foundation did a little film on us, and one of the young men that's in that film with Collective and Jamie Wooten, boom. All right. The big thing was that I met him. He was my first intern. All right. School said, we got some kids who want to give you an intern. I told him to give me the worst one. Give me the one nobody wants. And guess what? Here we are now, 9 years, 10 years, 11 years later. Okay. He's worked for me 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Like that patient capital we need for our business, we need that patience for our community too. You feel what I'm saying? Awesome.
I do. We need more small businesses, small business owners like you. A lot of them can't. They want to do it. They can't get there, or maybe many of them just don't even think about it. They don't want any. It's too messy for them. You know.
I think that's what for a lot of them. One of the things that's encouraging to me is that every time that I put one of them out, every time one of those kids come in, those young men, those grown men, young women come in, and then they go back to their community. Guess what? Things change, and I let them know in advance that what's going to happen, that you're going to notice, you're going to walk up into your community. People are going to talk to you different. They're going to look at you different because you're awesome. And I think that's the key right now, is that we have to let people know that they are awesome. Okay. Regardless of where you at. All right. What's going on? All right. You got everything you need to get there. Okay. We do need help, but you got everything you need to get there. And until somebody that really instills that in them and consistently, all right. Remember, you're dealing with somebody that's 18, 19, 25 years old. They've been taught in a dysfunctional way for that period of time.
Let me just interject. According to News One, 97 black men and boys have been killed by police this year. Police shooting and killing black males is all but a centuries-old American tradition among law enforcement in the U.S. But the fact that this apparent rite of police passage is still thriving in 2020 and only seems to be gaining momentum instead of slowing should give any American citizen pause, as an increasing number of black people, especially males, both young and old, continue to be added to a growing list of victims with what seems like a new shooting every week.
Fact. You know, we are an endangered species. Young black men in today's society are an endangered species. All right. And we have to change that narrative, because remember, that's the head of our home. That's the head of our community. Mm-hmm. All right. The men are supposed to lead the women, our children. I see it, Donnie. Fact. I know you talk the real. And until we change that narrative, guess what? You know, and that's the great thing about Terra Cafe. When you come here, you know, a lot of people, the only way that they've interacted with us in our community is through television or something else. But when you come here and you see the art, you see the music, you see those youth that you might have been scared on the street about, and they're cooking your food, they're speaking to you, they have awesome conversation, they have visions and they have dreams. Guess what? Maybe you don't clutch that pocketbook when you get in the elevator now, okay? Maybe you understand a little bit when they come to interview with you, or you have to interact with them. Maybe you understand that, guess what? They really coming from Beirut. They're in war. This is a war zone, okay?
John Rydell, you have been to this neighborhood where I live, Sandtown, many times. What can the media do? I wish we had personally more journalists of your ilk who aren't afraid to go out and talk to people. I mean, you come to Sandtown. Sandtown's no cakewalk, but what could the media do more of?
I don't know, Donnie. I sadly, and again, I'm not working in TV right now. I think media is so reactionary. You know, they deal in numbers, and part of it is that when I was, worked for many years, we weren't given enough leeway to go out on our own and just ferret out stories. We were too micromanaged to do this and that, and there were too many deadlines. And sometimes you just have to go out and see what's on people's minds. I remember it might have been a year or so ago. It was pretty cold weather, and photographer and I, he's from Philly, and we decided to go down. I think we were right outside of, not too far from where you are, the market, the avenue or whatever. And we just got out. We didn't, run up to people. We just stood out there and we let people come to us. And of course, they were kind of like, well, who are you? So there was some kind of suspicion. But then after a while, people started talking to us about what the community needed or whatever. But it's, I don't know. It's just,
why did you make it your business? Hey, John, are you holding your phone, or what? You set it down?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me try to set it down here. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm a rookie compared to you. So let me see if I can try to
perfect
do this. So okay,
covering your face a little bit
together here. All right, sorry.
Okay, that'll work. So perfect.
Okay.
All right. So, China, any questions for John?
Yeah, I do. And so I want to know, what's happening to local media? Because in my mind, in terms of what can the media do, there have been so many cuts, budgetary and so forth, to local media's capacity to even cover the news. And so when you say they have so many deadlines, they need time just to get out, what I hear you saying is people need time for more enterprise stories. They need time to just kind of be out there on the ground listening, but they're driven by these micro deadlines from day to day, and it actually keeps them less in touch with what the news is and where it is before it happens. When I hear you saying that the media is so reactionary, I hear you saying that maybe we're counting the clickbaits too much. And even though it's just kind of sort of reinforcing what people already want to know, as opposed to actually telling the news, which is really the mission, right? Because the news is something that people don't know about. They may not be clicking on it. We have to create that. And so, but what's happening with local media? In Baltimore, we have a few outlets here and there, but I guess my concern is that the media has a really powerful role to play in exposing what's happening at every level, government, private, what have you, to make the city better. The weaker local media gets, then I think we don't have that check and balance that we need. What do you think?
I think in commercial TV, there's so much emphasis on the ratings and promoting websites and social media.
Oh, we lost you.
Okay. And COVID has dominated the news for 8 months. And so when I went to work, it was like, well, what COVID stories do you have? And it was broken down into medical, education, and then the politics, what, Hogan or the mayor, whoever the mayor is. And so there's so many stories that could be covered that have been lost because of that. And then the deadlines, there are too many deadlines just to get on the air. Every year where I was, they were adding more and more newscasts, which means more repetition, and you're doing live shots that just for the sake of live. And so that prevents you from, I think, getting out in the community. I think, talking with reporters that had been around for a while, they were frustrated, and that their bosses, my bosses, would not just say, you know what, why don't you just go out and get us a good story? And it doesn't have to be on COVID. And maybe there should be somebody that's not focused on COVID. Let everybody else do that and have somebody else go out. And I think WYPR does a very good job of that, from what I've heard. They go out in the community. They tell stories that other radio stations aren't doing, and other TV stations are not doing. So I think kudos to them. But their staff isn't all that big. And I think that they're still able to cover COVID superficially, but we just need more of that, I think, in radio and TV.
Guys, what would you like to see more of in local media? I mean, you've been a big supporter of BmoreNews, of Darren Muhammad's radio show, of other small media. What would you like to see more in media?
Would I like to see more in media? Something that doesn't involve the bean counters. Something that is not about the rates, about the ratings, or anything of that nature. Something that really is just about the people. You know what I mean? I think that one of the key things that we keep doing is that trust factor. It's time for the media to win the trust factor back for our community, and especially our community. You know, one of the great things about you and Brother Muhammad and those that I support is that, you know, I'm getting it right between the eye, good, bad, or indifferent. And I think that's the key to change, is that, guess what? If it's rough, let me know it's rough so I can ride rough. You know, if it's smooth, come on, let me know it's smooth so we can, we can take advantage and go further. Okay. But just being actually used as a puppet or a muppet that what's hot today, you know what I mean? And then not tomorrow, that's one of the key things in reference to with like the bamboo program that I'm doing right now of owning the bricks. We got to keep stuff for our community.
So, Terrence, what media outlets have covered you, Terror Cafe, since COVID?
I think just about every damn body. I've had PBS. I've had NBC nationally. I've had Jenny right here locally. Baltimore Times. I've had.
Aren't you in a film or documentary?
Documentaries. A little bit of everybody, man. The Rockefeller,
And you've also talked to the White House, correct?
Oh, that was awesome. At the first thing when the NBC piece came out in reference to the PPP, they gave me, I got a reach out from Renard Jackson. Whoop, whoop. Spoke to him last week. He's doing well. Prayers out for his family and what they're going through right now. But what I did was that I didn't want to do it just by myself. I didn't want to say, okay, well, he reached out. He wanted to set me up because he said the White House was very upset that I did not get my PPP money. And I said, okay. I didn't want to go and just say, write a check for me. What I did, I actually tried to find some people to actually partner with. And I wanted to have a discussion about Baltimore. I wanted to have a discussion about micro Black business. I wanted to have a discussion about every small Black business from coast to coast that I needed them to hear. Okay, that we were not going to make it if they use the same standards that they've suppressed us for the last 50 years. All right. So regardless of what you put on the media, you say the money is on the street, but it's not there. We're not getting it.
Judge, we're going to go around the horn. There's one last thing in the realm of violence. I understand that there are 5 Black people on death row sentenced to death, and they will be executed before Donald Trump leaves office. Any thoughts on that?
Hey, he should do something right for once. Pardon them all. All right? No death penalty. If they got to serve their time in jail, nobody has life. Nobody has really the right just to take your life.
John, what does it look like to you when the president going out the door wants to execute 5 Black people?
No, I don't believe in the death penalty, period, hands down. And it's difficult, though, for me to comment on the case because I'm always sensitive to the pain that, the victims may have felt. I don't know what those people.
Can you comment on 5 Black people getting killed before Trump leaves office? No. Okay,
no, I think he's sending a statement to his white supremacist supporters. That's what I think that he's doing. I don't believe in the death penalty. I always want to think about, the death penalty has been applied in so many wrong situations where people have been innocent. And so here, I don't know why those people are on death row or what it is that they supposedly did or what it was that they were convicted for. So I never want to ignore the pain of families who could have been on the other end. But I absolutely am not in favor of the death penalty. And I think that Trump has shown very clearly every single day that he's in office that he is speaking to his base, to his white supremacist base.
John Rydell.
Well, I don't know anything about the cases, but what I can say is there's a lot of disturbing images in Washington, D.C. last week that we saw on network news. I mean, people are, they're coming from all over the country. They're risking their health to rally together. And, some of the images are disturbing. And, there are a lot of folks that are saying, okay, with the president's, what he's not saying has fueled this. So it's, after January 20th, nothing just gets back to normal. I don't know, what's going to happen with the Trump family, but these are, I don't know, it's tough times.
Okay, so let's end on a positive note. I presume that you're all Ravens fans.
Absolutely.
Before
I'm
we start,
100% a Ravens fan, but let me tell you something amazing about the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens care about Black economic development in Baltimore City. The Baltimore Ravens provided a $55,000 grant to one of the projects that I'm leading, where I need to connect a low-income Black and brown community to an adjacent community that is wealthy. Because when we think about capital flows, it's not just systemic. It's also just money walking into a neighborhood in somebody's pocket. And so the Baltimore Ravens are behind an amazing permanent artistic light installation that's going to connect the Broadway East neighborhood with Eager Park. They provided $55,000. So what I love about the Baltimore Ravens is that they love Black people and that they love Black economic development.
John Rydell.
55,000?
Yes, that's right.
Can they get you to say that?
What'd you say?
They need to write a bigger check for the Black community of Baltimore City. That's what they need to do. All right? That's hot dog sales on a Saturday.
Well, the 55,000 was part of 1 million. They actually gave out 1 million. And I'm not saying that was enough or what have you, but let me tell you, it's 55,000 more than what I had before, and it was a part of 1 million that got spread around the entire city.
John Rydell, any thoughts?
Yeah, well, I stayed up late, and I mean that was the game of the year. If they had lost that game, they're out of the playoffs. Now they're going to use that momentum. But what an extraordinary game! I mean, whatever the score was, 49-45 or something like that.
45-42. 3-point game.
So, it was a very late night. My wife is wondering why it was up so late. So, and it's really exciting for the town too. I mean, like what we've talked about over the past hour, just so many troubles and this takes people's minds off of things like that. It unifies the town, and it's just good to see. Great game.
That'll have to be the final word. China Terrell, how can people get in touch with you? Then John, then Terrence.
I need come be part of this permanent artistic light installation we're doing. Email me at China, CHINA, just like the country, China at ACTimpact.org. China at actimpact.org. 410-989-1607.
Terrence Dixon.
We're going to have a crazy Raven Super Bowl party in the Jerk Garden. It's going to be unbelievable. I'm going to wear the purple suit, the whole joint. But you can reach out to me at terraloftconsulting.com. Click onto the link. We do a little free business analysis right off the cuff. We got a survival guide for you. If you haven't been thinking about a few things, we got some ideas for you. And what we're based on is solutions.
Where are you located?
We're located on the corner we're right above Terra Cafe on the corner of 101 East 25th Street in the heart of Baltimore City. All right, you got a little Black Wall Street here. You got the Greenhouse Juice. you got Flourish, you got Reflection Internals, you got Miss Deneen, you got 3 Rose Nail, all right? You got Tia over at the Urban Bookstore, okay? Shout out to everybody, all right? You got Bimbo, you know what I mean?
What about the dude with the arts and crafts down the street from you?
The who?
The guy with the arts and crafts, the necklaces.
Yeah. You got Baba right down the street. He got soaps. He's got shea butter. Unbelievable craftsman of a carver. You know what I mean? That's the one thing that when people come to Baltimore, you got to get out of the harbor. You got to get out of Harbor East. You got to go to these communities because that's where the flavor is. If not, you just been to Disney World.
Good deal. John Rydell, you get the final word.
Come on.
Okay. Donnie, thanks for having me again. This has been very enlightening over the past hour. It's nice to end on a good note. If anybody needs to reach me, my email address is jprydell@verizon.net. Thanks, Donnie.
Good deal. All right, folks, it's been another edition. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Up today, down tomorrow. Do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it, regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am.
Oh, yes, you are, Donnie. Yes, you are. Yes, you
Good
are.
morning, Baltimore.
I love it.
All right. Peace, everybody. Wash your hand. Wait.